It's time to break down the Buffalo Bills Week 12 opponent, the challenges they present, and what the Bills need to do to deal with them today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I am your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Tuesday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode of Locked On Bills is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Well, folks, for the third time in 4 years, the Bills are playing a football game on Thanksgiving. So we are going to spend today's podcast getting ready for it. It's a short week, and so we kind of have to shuffle some things around. So today will be the comprehensive primer. Let's do it. The Buffalo Bills are back in Detroit in Week 12 for a road date with the Detroit Lions. The game will be played on Thursday, November 24th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. The game will be broadcasted on CBS. Jim Nantz is on the play-by-play. Tony Romo is the game analyst. And Tracy Wolfson is the sideline reporter. This will be the 12th all-time meeting between the Bills and the Lions. And the Bills have a 6-4-1 all-time record against the Lions, and the Bills have actually won the last 3 and 5 of the last 6. The last time the Bills played the Lions was in Josh Allen's rookie season, 2018, a Bills win, 14-13. Some highlights from that game: Josh Allen was 13 of 26 for 204 yards, passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown. The leading rusher for the Bills in that game was Keith Ford, 14 rushes, 46 yards. Marcus Murphy also had 11 rushes for 35 yards. Robert Foster had 108 yards receiving on 4 catches and a touchdown. And then a note from the Lions side of things. This is kind of interesting. Kenny Golladay, 7 catches for 146 yards for the Lions. And just kind of an interesting note because of how bad he's been for the Giants, right? He can't even get on the field to make an impact. So Kenny Galladay's best days are certainly behind him, it would appear. The Bills, as you know, enter this game 7-3. The Lions are 4-6. They've actually won their last 3 after dropping 5 in a row. So they're a hot football team. Their 4 wins have come against the Commanders, Packers, Bears, and Giants. Their 6 losses to the Eagles, Vikings, Seahawks, Patriots, Cowboys, and Dolphins. Head coach of the Detroit Lions is Dan Campbell, 46 years old. He's in his second season with the Lions, and last year was his first season. They went 3-13-1, and now so far this year they're 4-6. He did have a stretch as the interim head coach of the Miami Dolphins back in 2015. The team went 5-7 after he replaced Joe Philbin in Week 4. So his record to date with the Lions is 7-19-1. He was a long-time NFL player, played 10 years in the NFL prior to becoming a coach. He got his coaching career started with the Dolphins. He was a tight ends coach from 2010 to 2015. Then he went to the Saints from 2016 to 2020, where he was the assistant head coach and tight ends coach. And now he is the head coach of the Lions as of 2021. He's challenged 9 plays in his career, and he's won 5 of them. The quarterback for the Lions is Jared Goff, 6'4", 217 pounds, 28 years old, a first-round pick out of Cal in 2016. In fact, the number 1 overall selection by the Rams, and he was the Rams starter from 2016 through 2020, and he's now in his second season with the Lions after being part of the Matthew Stafford trade. So this is a guy with 8 years of NFL starting experience, and that includes 93 starts. With the Rams, he was 42-27 as a starting quarterback. With the Lions, 7-16-1. So far in 2022, he's completing 63.9% of his passes, 244 passing yards per game, 15 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a passer rating of 92.8. Let's look at his 2022 metrics. So far, he's averaging 2.69 seconds average time to throw. That's 21st in the NFL. 47% of the time, he gets it out in under 2.5 seconds. 53% over 2.5 seconds, and he's much more effective when he's on schedule and gets the ball out quickly. When he throws the ball in under 2.5 seconds, snap to throw, he completes 73% of his passes and has a passer rating of 105.4. When he holds on to it over 2.5 seconds, he only completes 55.2% of his passes with a passer rating of 80.8. And so, just like with a lot of quarterbacks, with Jared Goff, you want to force him to exhaust progressions, make him hold onto the football, and don't let him find rhythm. His average depth of target is 8.1 yards. That's 18th in the NFL, so not a guy that pushes it too far down the field, and he doesn't do that very frequently either. 11.3% of his attempts are 20-plus yards down the field. That is 18th in the NFL. When he throws the ball 20 yards or more down the field, Jared Goff this year is 13 of 37, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 73.3. And so not a super effective deep ball thrower, but it happens sometimes, and there's occasionally success there. Play action happens 27% of Jared Goff's dropbacks. That's 18th in the NFL. He likes play action. When he is operating a play action pass, his passer rating is 103.7. Without play action, it's 88.8. And so he enjoys a nice little bump when it comes to play action, like a lot of quarterbacks do, especially this team. You know, they want to run the football and use that to help their play action game. Although we know that running the football is not a prerequisite to an effective play action passing game. 9.9% of Goff's passes are screens. That's 19th in the NFL. His pressure splits, these are pretty notable. When he's kept clean, Jared Goff's very good. 71% of his passes are completed, 8 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 106.2. So Jared Goff has the 6th best passer rating in the NFL when he's kept clean. When he's under pressure, this is where things get dicey. He only completes 45.7% of his passes, 6.2 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 58.7. That passer rating of 58.7 under pressure is 29th in the NFL. We're talking towards the bottom of the NFL. So when you get pressure on this guy, his completion percentage falls 25%, and his passer rating drops 47.5 points. Again, keeping in mind that 58.7 passer rating under pressure, 29th in the NFL. Get pressure on Jared Goff, he will become much, much less effective. When it comes to the blitz splits, nothing is notable here. Has identical splits with and without the blitz. So you can send extra pressure, but it has not this year affected him dramatically where it's worth noting the splits that he has. The big thing is just getting pressure on him, and that's really where the wheels come off for Jared Goff. I want to talk about the offense a little bit more here in just a moment, but first, this episode is brought to you by Turo. Turo is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. You can book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. You can get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday, or you can just find a affordable economy car if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. You can test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits into your everyday life. And I love this. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. I hope you've been getting in on the action over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is my favorite daily fantasy resource. How does it work? You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they will score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available, and they have projections for any sport that you can watch. So NFL, NBA, NHL, golf, college sports, soccer, you name it, you can find it over at Prize Picks, and entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. So download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. So if you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Just don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match worth up to $100. The offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions is Ben Johnson, 36 years old, and he's in his first season as the Lions offensive coordinator. He got his start back in 2012. He was with the Dolphins from 2012 through 2018 as an assistant offensive coach. He worked with the quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers at various points during that stretch. Then he came to the Lions in 2019, where he was a quality control coach. 2020 through 2021, he was a tight ends coach for the Lions, and now he's their offensive coordinator. So far, their offense has been really good. Look at these numbers. They're averaging 25 points per game. That's 8th in the NFL. They convert 41% of their third downs. That's 16th. They're 71% scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's 5th. They average 366 yards per game. That's 6th best in the NFL. 132 rushing yards per game. That's 10th. And 233 passing yards per game. That is 11th. So we're talking about the number 6 offense in the NFL, 8th in scoring. This is not a bad offense by any stretch. This is an above average NFL offense. So if you have any ideas about this being the Lions and them being a pushover and they can't move the football, you're wrong. This is an offense that does those things quite well. So let's talk about their personnel. Their top wide receiver is Amon-Ra St. Brown, a bright young player in the NFL. He's been one of the most productive receivers in NFL history over their first 25 games. He's off to a great start, a good route runner, really, really good hands, super competitive. Is he an elite physical specimen in terms of size and athleticism? No, but he's a very cerebral route runner that knows how to get open, catch the football, and compete after the catch. There's something very, very enjoyable to me about watching Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he plays the position the way it's supposed to be played. I'm a big fan of this young player. Now, after that at wide receiver, things get a little dicey. Josh Reynolds has been their number 2 wide receiver. He missed on Sunday due to a back injury, and he didn't practice on Monday. And so who knows if he's going to be ready to go on Thursday. They did get DJ Chark back on Sunday, but he missed a notable stretch of time this year. He's only played in 4 games, and he was a non-factor against the Giants. So what type of role can he play on Sunday? That'll be a big thing for them. And then Khalif Raymond, who's a small, shifty guy. That's kind of their slot player. They'll move him around, but that's their wide receiver 3. So the big thing to pay attention to here is the availability of Josh Reynolds and, what to expect from DJ Chark, who's missed a ton of time so far this season, but they're going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's their best wide receiver. At running back, kind of an interesting situation here. Their leading ball carrier, and I actually think this guy leads the NFL in touchdowns this year, Jamal Williams, who is a really good player. Not necessarily because he's this dynamic ball carrier that's hard to deal with. He's a serviceable running back, but where he really has made a path for himself in the NFL is by being really, really good in pass protection, having some short yardage ability and being a really, really highly respected leader and locker room guy. This guy, Jamal Williams, is going to play in the NFL for a long, long time. I think he's the extreme version of Tywan Jones, where probably at some point he'll be a special teams guy and a very important, influential leader. But right now he's still giving the Lions quite a bit as a running back. He's their leading ball carrier, and he scored a lot of touchdowns this year. So a physical back that has good size and can do a lot of different things, even if he's not the most dynamic physical talent. Now, their most dynamic running back is DeAndre Swift, the second-round pick a few years ago. He's had some really big moments in the NFL. He's just always hurt. And so, he was kind of limited this past week. We'll see what type of role he could play against the Bills, but he's their most talented ball carrier. There's no question about that. And he's a pass catcher and a run. Like, he can catch it and run it. He's a pretty multifaceted player, has speed and can run in between the tackles. So he's really good. It's just about what type of workload he can command because he's seemingly always injured. And then Justin Jackson, who I think is a running back 3 type player. He might get some opportunities. The Lions like to run the football, and so there could be some carries for him. He had carries on Sunday against the Giants, and he kind of just checks boxes. He can catch it a little bit. He can run a little bit. He's also their kick returner. I don't think anybody wants him to be a top 2 back for their team, but as your running back 3, I think he's pretty solid. At tight end, they recently traded away TJ Hutchinson, and that leaves Brock Wright as their starter. And Brock Wright's had some really flashy moments to this point as a pass catcher. I'm not sure he's a ideal starting tight end, but I think he's a quality tight end too. But now he's their starting tight end, and he's backed up by James Mitchell, who was a day 3 draft pick out of Virginia Tech. Caught a touchdown pass a few weeks ago, but, very modest role to this point. I like his upside and appeal, but he got injured his last season at Virginia Tech, and it's been kind of slow to start things in the NFL. Maybe I think there's a path for him to be a good move piece tight end, but I'm not sure that those days are here. It's kind of the Brock Wright show right now at tight end. So that's their weapons. The one to be mindful of is Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got a stable of backs that are quality, and then these tight ends that are being challenged in new ways now that Hawkinson's not on this team. Now, their offensive line is going to be really tough to forecast here. They got quite a few injuries. Here's what we know. We know who their tackles are going to be, and they're good players. Their left tackle is Taylor Decker, quality starter for a long time in the NFL. He's a good player. And then their right tackle is Penei Sewell, who I think is one of the emerging stars in the NFL on the offensive line. It was a high pick a couple of years ago, and he's just scratching the surface. He's big, athletic, physical. I think he's got a chance to be a really elite player in the NFL, and his young career's off to a great start. Now, the middle of this offensive line, wow, who knows what's going to happen here. I think we feel good about, in terms of the availability of left guard Jonah Jackson, who's a solid young player. But then Frank Ragnow, who's their center, who's an absolute stud, he has a foot injury. He did not practice, or was designated do not practice, on Monday. And so I don't know what his availability is going to be. That'd be a significant loss. And then at right guard, their starter is Evan Brown. He left the game on Sunday against the Giants with an ankle injury, and Dan Skipper came in and played. And folks, if Dan Skipper plays, that's going to be a real opportunity for the Bills to play through him. He's been in the league for a while, but he's like 6'10" and just this big, awkward body. Really struggles to get leverage, and nothing about him suggests that he's a guard or an interior player, although he's gotten some run this year on the interior. But if he plays, that could be a real opportunity for the Bills to get some wins up front. So, look, if these guys are all healthy, Decker, Jackson, Ragnow, Brown, Sewell, that's an upper echelon offensive line. But the middle 3 of this unit, or really the middle 2, is kind of banged up, and we're going to have to see who they have available on Sunday. So what are my keys for the Bills on defense against this Lions offense? First of all, interior pressure. I think you're going to have some opportunities to get some wins with your defensive tackles. I thought the defensive tackles played really well against the Browns, and they need to show up again this week with their ability to stop the run and fit the run and be sound, but also get that interior pressure on Jared Goff. I mean, that's really going to That's going to force Jared Goff into some funky moments. He'll give you something if you get pressure in his face. So I think these defensive tackles can really win this game for the Bills up front. Number 2 is win the ball in the air. We've seen this kind of a trend lately where other teams are just winning the ball. They're going up and getting the football and making a lot of plays against the Bills, not because Buffalo doesn't have guys in good position. It's just that they're not making plays on the ball with enough consistency. Right now, this Lions wide receiver core has a 44% contested catch rate, pretty decent. And so there's going to be some challenges there, and the Bills DBs need to have a bounce-back performance here playing the ball in the air. Number 3 is handle the run. This is a very blended run scheme. They're going to give you zone. They're going to give you gap. It's very creative. They're going to introduce different gaps. They're going to get these offensive linemen going on the move. And so you'll have to be very, very sound with your run fits and your keys, because I think this is as creative as a run scheme as you'll find in the NFL. Maybe not to the degree of a Kyle Shanahan, right? That might have been a little bit of an overstatement, but there was a uniqueness about the way that they run the football that puts a lot of stress on you, and it's going to be a big task for this Bills front seven to fit the run and be sound with their gaps. And number 4, I just have written down that there is nothing to underestimate. This team, this Detroit Lions team, they can move the ball and they can score points. So what was really interesting to me was how many emails and DMs that I received coming out of the Browns game that's asking me what's going on with the defense. Well, first of all, the Bills are shorthanded on defense, but also I try to tell you the Browns have a good offense. They're number 5 in the NFL in total offense, top 10 scoring offense. Well, here we are again. I know by name or whatever, you just assume the Lions are a bad football team, but this is the number 8 scoring offense in the NFL. This is the number 6 total offense, yards per game in the NFL. They're top 10 in scoring. They're 5 in red zone touchdown percentage. Top 6 in total yards, top 10 in rushing yards, 11th in passing. There's nothing to underestimate here, folks. Like I said, the number 8 scoring offense in the NFL, and that includes being shut out by New England and scoring only 6 points against Dallas in a 2-week stretch. So get your expectations in the right place. This offense can challenge you in a lot of ways. Maybe they don't have star players all over the place, but they can move the football and score points. They've done it all year. So just be mindful of that. This is a good challenge for this Bills defense, especially because who knows who's going to play, right? I think that's been the deal with the Bills defense all year long. Who's playing? And we face another week where Sean McDermott alluded to Tremaine Edmonds being unlikely for this week. AJ Epinesa, who knows with Greg Rousseau? You know, what corners are going to be available? Can Kaiir Elam get back this week? So this is a good test for the Bills on defense, and it's a really physical rushing attack, and they've got some skill guys. You know, look, don't underestimate this offense. That's what I'm trying to communicate. They've moved the ball and they've scored points all year long. We all know when it comes to sports, teamwork is everything. Every player on the field has their role that contributes to helping their team win. And honestly, it's the same when it comes to game day snacking. Whether it's making the dip or bringing the chips, everyone has their role. And if it's you bringing the chips, let me tell you, I'm about to make you the MVP, because Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are out here changing the game. These are the best tortilla chips in the business. My wife and I love them. We have dips all the time, whether it's guacamole or spinach dip, artichoke dip, buffalo chicken dip. We love these chips because Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips are delicious, crunchy, and they're made to dip. You never, ever, ever have to worry about them breaking in half when you dunk them in the guacamole. And I also love that they are made from organic Flint corn that is grown in upstate New York. So be the hero of this week's tailgate and grab a bag of Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips at your local Wegmans. Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips, making you the MVP. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all over at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. All right, let's talk about this Detroit Lions defense. And so, for as good of a story as there was to tell about the Lions and the success that they've had on offense this year, defense has been a problem. The coordinator is Aaron Glenn, 50 years old, in his second season as the Lions defensive coordinator. You guys probably remember him. He was an outstanding NFL player. 15 seasons, a good stretch of that coming with the Jets and then the Texans. 41 career interceptions, 3-time Pro Bowler. He was good. His defense right now is not good. Look at these numbers. So far this year, they're allowing 28.2 points per game. That's dead last in the NFL. They're allowing 415 yards per game on average, dead last in the NFL. 153 rushing yards per game, 31st in the NFL. 262 passing yards per game, 28th. They give up third down conversions 50% of the time. That's dead last. And they have a red zone touchdown percentage against them of 67%. That is 26th. Statistically, this is a very, very poor defense. Now, let's look at the personnel. I've studied this team. Like I've said, the Detroit Lions are part of my pro scouting responsibilities for the draftnetwork.com. I've watched every game that they've played this year. Quite familiar with what's going on with this football team. They got a lot of young players on defense. I'll put it like that. And they're competitive and they try hard, but they're prone to mistakes, and there's just a lot of inconsistency with how they play football. Up front at defensive tackle, Aleem McNeil, I think, is their best player, second-year guy out of North Carolina State. He actually had 10 pressures last week against the Giants. Really athletic, stout football player that has really turned it on this season. I thought he had a slow start. It's been a lot better of late. Next to him will be combinations of Isaiah Buggs, who I think is a replacement-level player, Benito Jones, who's a replacement-level player, and Michael Brockers, who's been a quality player in the NFL. He's been banged up this year and has just not been all that effective. So that's going to be your mix of guys on the interior. On the edge, going to be a little bit dicey here because they have some injuries. One guy they will have is an exciting young player, Aidan Hutchinson. Was a high draft pick out of Michigan this past year. Number 2 pick overall, actually. And he's been phenomenal. I think he's in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year right there with Tariq Woolen and Sauce Gardner with the Jets. He's been phenomenal. I think he has 5.5 sacks, 2 interceptions. This guy plays hard. I've watched all of his games and his motor. He's on the field for like 90% of the snaps, and he never turns it off. And he's made plays this year just because he tries hard. And he's got a lot in his bag in terms of pass rush moves. He's going to throw the kitchen sink at you, but I think what really excites me about Aidan is just the relentless effort that he plays with. It's exciting to watch. If you like, I like football. I love the Bills, but I like football too. And so I can appreciate a guy like Aidan Hutchinson and how he competes and how he works his techniques. Now, next to him, Julian Okwara. He's been pretty ineffective this year, and John Kaminsky, who's kind of an inside-outside guy that may reduce inside a little bit. And then Josh Pascal and Charles Harris are important players for them. That's kind of their second and third guys. They were out on Sunday, and then they didn't practice on Monday. So I don't know if those guys are going to be available, but they're going to be a whole lot better on defense if they have them. But as it stands, there's a good chance they just have Hutchinson, Okwara, and Kaminsky on the edge. At linebacker, I think this is a below-average group. Alex Anzalone's their every snap guy. Malcolm Rodriguez is a late-round pick out of Oklahoma State. Kind of a spark plug. I think he's an average player to this point. Maybe he's exceeding expectations as a late-round draft pick, but I think that he gives up just as much as he takes away, if that makes sense. You love that he plays with an unrelenting motor and all that stuff. He's definitely a spark plug and plays hard, but I question how effective he is. And then Derek Barnes, who's been kind of a revelation for them in recent weeks. They've incorporated him more and more into the lineup, and I think he's got a lot of potential. I'm sure they're going to use him quite a bit to spy Josh Allen, a big athletic linebacker. They like to blitz him a little bit and let him rush. But to me, he's been, over the last 3 weeks, a guy that has really caused me to perk up a little bit and wonder if he should be getting playing time over Malcolm Rodriguez. And Rodriguez is a big fan favorite from the Lions. So I think they have, and I think he was a big deal on Hard Knocks. I didn't watch Hard Knocks this year. So he's got a lot of hype with him. But I think in reality, Barnes has been a better player this year. But they kind of mix and match those players. But Anzalone will be on the field every snap. At corner, we got a rough situation here. Jeff Okudah is their number one corner, and he's in concussion protocol. I don't think he'll be able to clear by Thursday. He was concussed on Sunday. I highly doubt he's going to play this week. And so that's going to leave them with a bunch of replacement level players. Jerry Jacobs was actually played a decent amount for them last year. Started this past game, so I would assume that he'll start again this week. Amani Oruwariye, who has been dreadful this year out of Penn State. He was okay last year, but has really regressed this season. He struggles as a tackler, and he's been giving up a lot in coverage. And then Mike Hughes might get some run. We'll see. I think if things aren't effective with either player, he'll push for playing time. And then they have Will Harris in the slot. It's been a pretty good slot player for them this year. But overall, that's just a very without Okudah, that's a very poor group of corners. And then I like their safeties. Deshaun Elliott, who I think is a serviceable NFL starter. And then Kerby Joseph is a rookie out of Illinois, and he has taken over as a starter and been really, really good. He's big and athletic, and you like the size that he has, but he's just got really great ball skills. He made a lot of plays last year for Illinois on the ball, and that's showing up right now for this Lions defense. I think he's got like 3 interceptions over the last few games. He's made a ton of splash plays. He's not just interceptions, he's making plays on the ball too. So that's a guy to be mindful of in the middle of the field there that I think is potentially going to be a star for them. He's really off to a great start so far as a rookie. So what are my keys for the Bills on offense against this Lions defense? Number one, I'm not sure I'm ever going to stop writing this down. Take care of the football. They did that against the Browns and won the game. And it wasn't the most dynamic day for the Bills on offense, but they took care of the football. And I think the Bills are going to be a tough team to ever beat if they don't turn over the ball. They reduced their drive percentage of turnovers from 19% down to 17%. Still tops in the league. They're still leading the league. Got a lot of bad to undo there, but they're trending in the right direction there when it comes to taking care of the football. That needs to continue against the Lions. You don't want to give a team like the Lions more hope, right? Don't let them stick around with you. I expect the Bills to be able to move the ball and score points. And the longer you let a team like this stick in there, and they're a team that's shown the ability to kind of come back too. Like, they're going to compete. That's the one thing we can tell you about a Dan Campbell coach team. They're going to compete their asses off for 60 minutes. But don't give them anything extra. They don't need that. Take care of the ball again. Number two is just a good mix of run and pass. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. Mix it up. Keep them off balance. Be two-dimensional and go play your game. Number three, be careful in the middle of the field. Kerby Joseph is a guy that is going to aggressively make plays on the football. And maybe there's an opportunity to bait a young player and get him out of his spots and throw the football behind him. But I'm mindful of what this man has shown as a middle of the field defender so far this year. He's an absolute ball hawk. And then number four is create conflict and go after these linebackers and corners. This is a very below average situation at corner and linebacker for this team. Create conflict and go after them. Misdirection, RPOs, play action. Put guys in conflict and make them wrong. They're aggressive, they're young, they're physical, but there's not a lot of experience. And you got a veteran quarterback in Josh Allen, veterans all over your offense. Go put them in conflict. Go put them in conflict and be aggressive. But take care of the football. Real quick on special teams, their kicker is Michael Badgley. He's been perfect so far this year with the Lions. 12 of 12 on extra points, 10 of 10 on field goals. but I would point out that he's been on 5 teams since the start of the 2020 season. So he's enjoying a really good stretch, and I'm happy for him there, but there's a reason he's been on so many different teams since the start of 2020, 5 different teams. Jack Fox is their punter. He is an elite young punter. This is like the Lions version of Brian Moorman here. He's phenomenal. I mean, just a really special talent at punter. I think he just signed a pretty lucrative extension. He's really outstanding. And then the return situation is Khalif Raymond as the punt returner, Justin Jackson as the kick returner. I would definitely challenge Justin Jackson in the ways that you've seen the Bills typically challenge kick returners. Khalif Raymond has been an okay punt returner in his career. He had 5 muffs in one season, but he's been pretty sound since. But he's got some athleticism that kind of makes me a little bit nervous, so I wouldn't mess around with that guy too much. So there you have it. That's the Detroit Lions. That's the challenge that the Bills have this week. And this has always been a game that even whenever I saw the schedule for the first time and I saw the Bills are playing the Lions, I kind of hated the game. I just kind of knew the characteristics of a Dan Campbell coach team. And for as lacking as they are on defense, this team has won their last 3 games. They score points, they move the football, and they compete hard. And I just think that's a tough opponent for a short week on the road on Thanksgiving. This is the Lions every year. This is the Lions Super Bowl. They want to go and perform well on Thanksgiving. Do they win every year? No. But this is a game that means a lot to them. And so this is going to be a tough out for the Bills. I'm not assuming anything this week. And so hopefully you are well acquainted with the Bills' opponent and, can have a good mindset for what this team is and what they aren't. So there you have it. Coming up the rest of the week on this podcast, we're going to do a typical Friday podcast, which may come tomorrow. I have the crossover discussion that will be on Thursday. I'm going to publish stuff as soon as I get it done. I know we have like a smaller window for everyone to consume these podcasts, and right, it's just different, right? So, some people wait until later in the week and you listen to all of them. I know there's a lot of different habits out there, and this is just going to be one of those weeks where it's hard for me to be the same level of consistent just because of this, how everything is condensed. And so I'm going to publish things as I'm done with them, and you'll get the same stuff you're used to getting. It just may come at different times. So keep your head on a swivel there. We'll get everything in for you and try to give you as big of a strike zone to consume it before the game. That's why I'm doing it. So just be mindful of that and check your podcast feed regularly, because there's a chance I might publish multiple episodes on the same day just so that we can fit in stuff and you guys can consume the discussion whenever it's most convenient for you. All right, folks, that's it for today. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.